Old age is an honor. When you get older and you get the grays on your head, you're entering into another phase in your life where you're going to get a lot of respect. You should. Now, we're living in a time and in a society where people are very desensitized and disrespectful to the elderly. They may be considered a nuisance or a target for whatever unsavory actions. This can happen. But most times when you reach this age, as you reach your golden ages, your golden years, you are normally supposed to be placed in a position of honor, a position where people are going to take heed to what you say, and you have a lot of wisdom to share with the world, with your family, with your community, to others. And really, that's theoretically how it should be. But more often than not, or in many cases, you may find that there are people, well, let's put it like this, probably not in many cases, because I personally don't run into a lot of toxic old people. Okay? But when you do, it is quite surprising. I remember when I used to be on Facebook. I haven't been on Facebook in years. But when I used to be on Facebook, I remember something had happened and I had made a comment on something. It wasn't anything that would have caused arguments, in my opinion, but so stated my opinion on the matter. I think someone had said something, I can't recall, but anyway, put my thoughts on it, and all of a sudden this man gets on my comment, and I mean, he is calling me every type of B's and F and B, and you're dumb B thinking this way. And I'm like shocked. Number one, because I'm not on the platform a lot and I don't really comment. So he's calling me, because of my opinion, he's calling me a F and B, a dumb B. I mean, nasty, nasty, nasty mouth. And it's of such that I just had to click on his profile. And this man was older. Like, he looks like he could be like my father or something, or an uncle. He's an older man. And he had a lot of pictures on his profile of him and this woman. I guess it's his wife or something. And I'm like, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, this man with this gutter mouth has no idea who I am. He's never met me. I'm not even talking to him. It's not even his post. And he is disrespecting me in this manner on a public platform. And I mean, it was shocking to see. And when I looked at him, I mean, I didn't look very further. I just clicked. And when you clicked on his profile, or you click on his picture, it just opens up to different things. And I looked at this guy and I was thinking, I bet this man goes to somebody's church. I bet he is somebody's deacon. But anywho, it was just shocking to see someone that age being that nasty. And I never forgot that. Like, wow. You expect this from someone in your age group or younger. But when you see an adult behaving this way, and I mean, the way he was addressing me, I mean, he was like, he was using the big words. I mean, he was, wow. I was like, my God. But it was shocking that he was an old man too. And what is the point? That not all the time are individuals. Oh, let me go back to that real quick. And when you think about it, because of his age, at least if you are a person who is decent, in my opinion, what do I say back to somebody who's old enough to be my father, right? You're not going to curse out an old person. You shouldn't. If you're doing it, you're wrong. You don't get on the bandwagon and argue with an elderly person, even if they're nasty. You just don't get into arguments with old people. But you see that advantage that he has, that he can behave a certain way, and I'm going to maintain that respect by not engaging with him or saying something back to him. And so the point that I'm making in this video is that old age is a position of honor, but what you do with it is what counts, because not everybody who has gray hair and is wearing a church hat and looking like the church mother or granny or grandpa, they're not always using that position for good. If anything, it becomes weaponized. Now, this message is not to speak against the elderly or to say all old people are this way, because they're not. They're wonderful, warm, kind, elderly people, but they're also individuals who they have not changed. They are still the same nasty, rude people they were when they were young. They just moved into old age now, and now they can hide it better. And it's harder for you to prove that your nana or your nana or whoever or paw or whatever, gramps, whoever you call them, it's hard to call them out because they're old. And so it is so important that in our lives, as we're whatever age you are, you're in your youth, as you get older, we have lessons to learn in life. We're either going to learn from our errors, learn from our mistakes, learn from our bad choices, whether deliberate or just out of naivety. We have to learn from that. And there are lessons and a time that's given to us to learn from it and to change. Because if you don't change, and if you just hold fast to certain behaviors and you're going to be wrong and strong and this is what it is and this is how it's going to be, you get into your golden age. You're still going to be honored with your gray age. You're still going to move into that position of honor, but what you do with it is what's going to count. So now that person is now too old to do a lot of different things. So what might this elderly person do? Well, because most people will go to them for advice depending on their family dynamics and where they are in life, they can either try to destroy people in a passive aggressive way because they're old now, they've aged, they can't do the same thing, so they could be jealous, bitter, continue doing the same thing, but because they're elderly now and may not have the resources or the speed or the reach, they can use other people. They can destroy your relationship simply by them being older. They can set people against you because of the position of honor they're in. People will most likely listen to them and believe them wholeheartedly, whatever they say. Or sometimes they take you under their wing and you think that they're looking out for you, but what they do is they actually keep you from being able to experience happiness. You have to be careful of that bitter old lady who has had bad relationships in her life, or she has some things go on. She has a certain perspective, but now she gets a hold of your daughters and she's telling them all these things that keeps them from finding happiness because her choices as a youth or as a young lady. It is very important that when anyone at any age is given advice, that we have to remember that our experiences is not necessarily everybody's reality. Our experiences is not necessarily everyone else's reality, because a lot of our experiences, the things that I've experienced, gone through, was based on my own choices, my mindset at the time, different things, the things that I'm able to do now, walk away from, has a lot to do with growth in my mindset. So while we can give advice and counsel, and just like I tell anyone that's listening, you still have to know for yourself what works for you. But sometimes you have a elderly, older man or woman who has made certain choices in their life. They've done certain things. Then as a result of their choices, they got bad experiences. They may sit and say, oh, all men are this way. This is how you should deal with that man. This is what you shouldn't do. You don't apologize to your husband. Don't do this. Don't do this. Is what you do. And they're actively telling these young girls what to do, these older women, right? But her experiences and the things that she has gone through, maybe, and her decisions and what she's telling you is based on the things she's gone through, the type of men she's dealt with. And you don't know the type of woman they were. Everyone's going to tell you their version of how things were. But I always say, if you ended up dating a certain type of person that always broke your heart, you always end up with toxic people, you have to start looking at yourself. We have to look at it and say, why did I choose this person? Why did I continue this relationship? And deal with that. Otherwise, you keep making choices. So sometimes that older woman is giving you advice based on how she treated her husband or how she dealt with men or her experiences. But you will find there may have been something within her where she was choosing a certain type of guy, those guys who will not treat her right. And now there's this blanket statement for all men. And now she's teaching you how to manipulate and how to do wrong. And then you have older men who they may be teaching young men, advising a husband not to do, be mindful of his wife and not to be understanding and you got to be tough as a man. You can't let a skirt pull you down, however they will talk. And you automatically listen because he's older. But that's why we have to have discernment, because not everybody who has the grays in their head truly have godly wisdom, truly have a balanced outlook on life and on things. Truly, they will give you fair and impartial counseling. That's not always the case. And why? Because from they were young, they were behaving a certain way. They got into their 20s, their prime, they're having a great time. And there were lessons that should have been learned that they put to the side. And they ignored, said it's too hard, it's easier to manipulate, it's easier to exert my authority, it's easier to use my charm, it's easier to spin the narrative. And they grow into that. They get older now and they get to be middle-aged and they're still continuing to do the same things. They're not forgiving anybody. They're not being accountable, and they keep going all the way till they get into old age. And while they mellow out some, at the core of them in their heart, they're still that person, that mean-spirited person they were when they were when they were younger. But now they have this advantage. And maybe there's something they can no longer do, but they can now infiltrate other people's lives. Have that, move them in your house or move them in with your family, and that person is causing trouble. They're causing trouble between you and your children. They're stirring up problems in your marriage. And why? Number one, their position. And then they're elderly. And then there is just a default level of consideration and respect, and people are going to just believe them immediately. So they just continue on this thing for years. Now they are causing the people who are in their youth, they're in their prime and doing all this stuff, they can ruin their lives. They can infiltrate. They can sit back, enjoy, and watch a woman denying her husband and not going home and encouraging her to do different things, and a man not being considerate of his wife's feelings and all this stuff. And this person is now the puppet master in old age. And this is a sad thing, because they're at the they're over the hill in some cases. They're ascending down now, okay? I think once you hit 50, you're halfway there, okay? And then now you're going down, down, down. And well, you're going up in age, but if you really think about it, what's going on? You're getting ready to go back to the grave, going back down, okay? You're getting older. So just imagine people that just continue to behave a certain way all these years, and then now they reach this other phase now where they can take the nonsense to a whole different level. And that's why the Bible talks about the heart, because no matter how a person looks, no matter how they appear, whether they are beautiful and young and striking, or they're old and have a cute grandpa face, gray hair, if their heart is dark on the inside, they are going to remain unchanged. No matter how mousy and innocent they look with the glasses and the beady little eyes and all of that, if the heart's not right, oh man, they're capable of anything. No matter how much they go to church and how much their Bible is highlighted and how much they're preaching and proclaiming things, my goodness gracious, if their heart isn't right, that's a wrap. They'll do the most horrible things. And so what am I saying when it's all said and done? Old age is an honor, but what you do with it really matters. We're all going to get old. You're getting old by the seconds. And you have to look at your life. We all have to look at our lives and look at our habits and look at what we're doing and look at the things that we do that may not be right and really ask God to help us and guide us and take necessary steps, counseling, things of that nature. And whether it's your health, whether it's the way you manage money, whether it is your relationships, whether it's toxicity, things that you've been doing, how you do things at work, it all matters. A lot of times, especially with Christians, they focus on the church aspect of their lives and how much they're going to church and how much they're given to church and how much what auxiliaries they are on, and not realizing that your salvation and your walk with God encompasses a lot more than this small window, this small area. It is about how you treat people. It is about how you deal with things such as your bills, how you're dealing with your family, how you deal with your neighbors, how you are on the job. Are you clocking in on time? Are you lying on your time cards, time sheets? Are you that person that deliberately put in your request for leave at the last minute, and when someone else has already put in, you call and say, these things matter. So while we're living, there are things that's going to come up in our lives. We're going to know about ourselves. No one knows us more than us, what we're like. And we have opportunities, as long as there's breath in our bodies, to change, to improve, to do better, to forgive, to let go, to move forward. And when you get your gray hairs and you're in this position now of honor, you want to truly be a person that you're using those years to help to build up and to encourage others, and not to be an ensnarement to people because of the way you look and because of your age. You can now manipulate, you can prevent someone from finding their happiness, you can continue to have keep a wedge between relationships, or live vicariously through others to continue to do the things that you used to do when you were young. Because when it's all said and done, when the body goes back into the earth and changed to dust and begins to just, break down, Your spirit is out. And that's what's going to matter. And our spirit has no age. All that's going to happen is we will be held accountable for our actions through life. And I have seen individuals that they don't believe in heaven, or they don't believe in hell, they don't believe in darkness, they don't believe in anything. And I mean, that's their choice. For them not to believe, for a person to say, I don't believe, means that they've heard. I heard it and I don't believe it, and that's their choice. But there's more than enough evidence. There's been more than enough. We've heard a lot of occurrences of things that cannot be explained. I myself have had a lot of supernatural experiences, and I am definitely a person who believes in my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. I am not a person that's just I'm not a religious fanatic that's all off the wall with it. But the reality of the transformation, the real encounter, has taken place that I cannot deviate from that. And I have experienced some really scary, tangible things prior to knowing the Lord, that I know that there is an unseen entity that exists, and they're here. And when we leave this body, and if you lived a life you were doing wrong, and you just did that all into your old age, when you shed this house called flesh, you're going to be face to face with what's always been present. And if you look at this world and all the craziness that's going on in it, some people, I believe, they just want to believe there's nothing out there because it's too scary to believe that. They don't want to believe that. To believe something else is outside this world is now to bring us to a different level of accountability, and they don't want to do that. But any hoots, to wrap up this video, embrace old age. Those of you that's reaching that age, you may not be old, but you are aging. So when you're in the prime, or you're middle age, or wherever you are in your life, think of the lessons. Think of the things that you have ignored. Think of those doors that you've closed. Think of the things you don't want to deal with. Think of the behaviors that you continue to have, and maybe justify them. And just realize every day is an opportunity to improve and to do better. And through prayer and seeking God, through counseling. Some people will pray and seek God, but they don't want to take practical steps, like to actually pick up the phone and say that you're sorry, or go to counseling, or admit that you're wrong, or realize I need to change, or hey, I need to go exercise. We can pray and ask God to help us for healing, but if you're not taking the walks that you should, that can be it's moot. You know what I mean? So guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that this makes sense. And just realize that when you get graced with your gray hairs, and you just old age, you can die, but you're still old. This is a time that you're going to be in a position of power. And if you continue on being a certain way throughout your life, when you get into that phase, you'll be using that phase to destroy and to manipulate people. And how sad is it to be at such an age and still behaving the same way as you're in the latter stages of life? All right, guys, I hope this makes sense. Thank you for watching, and God bless.